Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. President Reagan has rejected as propaganda today's surprise Soviet announcement that it is freezing deployment of nuclear missiles aimed at Western Europe. The Russian announcement, which had some conditions attached, was made in Moscow by President Leonid Brezhnev. The rejection, which had no qualifications attached, was made in Oklahoma City during a speech by Mr. Reagan. We have reports from Don McNeil in Moscow and from Leslie Stahl in Oklahoma City.
Appearing before a Congress of trade unionists at the Kremlin, President Brezhnev declared that as of today, acting on its own, the Soviet Union was halting the deployment of all medium-range nuclear missiles in the European part of the Soviet Union. Brezhnev said that his country wanted to set a good example, and that even though they didn't have an agreement with the United States, the Soviet Union was freezing the placement of all new SS-20 missiles and suspending the replacement of old missiles targeted at Western Europe. The freeze, Brezhnev said, would be in force either until both the United States and the Soviet Union agree to reduce their medium-range nuclear missiles in Europe, or until the United States starts getting ready to deploy its new nuclear weapons in Western Europe. Brezhnev's speech also contained a threat, which is more specific than any warning issued here in recent years. The Soviet leader said that if the Americans deploy their new missiles in Europe, the Soviet Union would take retaliatory steps that would put the United States itself, its own territory, in an analogous position. Diplomats here say that Brezhnev's language reminded them of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. They point out that only by placing Soviet launching platforms in Cuba, other central parts of Latin America, or on submarines cruising within 5,000 kilometers of the United States coastline could the Soviet threat be considered analogous to new American missiles based in Europe. Some American diplomats say the warning is a vague, hollow threat. Others disagree. But a point on which all Western diplomats do agree is that the proposed freeze could be extremely advantageous for the Soviet Union when the new spring peace offensive is launched in Western Europe. Don McNeil, CBS News, Moscow.
President Reagan issued an almost immediate answer to the Brezhnev proposal, flatly rejecting the plan as a propaganda gesture. Only hours after learning of the offer, the president began his scheduled address before the Oklahoma State Legislature by charging Brezhnev's plan to freeze Soviet missiles is unfair, since the offer is limited to the western part of the Soviet Union, thus leaving the Russians free to continue their SS-20 buildup east of the Urals, from where they could be easily returned to the west.
A freeze simply isn't good enough because it doesn't go far enough. We must go beyond a freeze. He fails to mention that these are mobile missiles. It doesn't matter where you put them, since you can move them anywhere you want, and even if east of the Urals, they could still target most of Western Europe.
Spokesman Larry Speaks put out a statement amplifying the president's position, saying the freeze proposal seeks to leave the Soviets free to continue their buildup, divide the NATO alliance, and stop U.S. deployments. In Washington, Senator Kennedy, who has made his own missile freeze proposal, had a more conciliatory reaction.
I disagree with Soviet proposals for a solely European freeze, but let us use this announcement as an opportunity for progress on a broader scale, rather than as an excuse for the paralysis of our own policy.
It's just a Madison Avenue approach to very serious business. It's repackaging simply of old Soviet proposals. The whole idea is to freeze us into a position of inferiority and to preserve the current nuclear imbalance in Europe and globally.
I would say it is an encouraging sign. I would also say, though, it is a propaganda ploy to try to capture the heart and soul and mind of the European people. And we better realize that we're in a massive propaganda war.
Administration officials see good and bad signs in Brezhnev's offer. They believe it shows the Soviets are frustrated in their campaign to win the hearts and minds of the Europeans, who they claim now favor President Reagan's call on the Russians to actually dismantle their missiles in Europe, not just freeze them. U.S. officials are concerned, though, by what they view as Brezhnev's threat, that if the U.S. goes ahead with deployment of its missiles in Europe, he may take retaliatory action. Some officials think he may be threatening to deploy Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, Oklahoma City.
Negotiations in Geneva between the United States and the Soviet Union on reducing nuclear missiles in Europe today adjourned for 2 months. There was no indication of any progress. The Soviet bloc's financial debt to the West last year was a record $80.4 billion. A United Nations study released today said that was an 11% increase over 1980. The sharpest increase was run up by the Soviet Union itself, which posted a $19.5 billion debt to Western nations.
This could be just another year for you, or the year of the century, the new Buick Century. Its front-wheel drive could pull you merrily through the winter's snow. Its 4-cylinder engine, available V6 gasoline or diesel, could splash through spring with exceptional mileage. And its roomy dimensions could carry a family of 5 with luggage through the wonderful days of summer. Buick's new Century.
The new Buick Century, and a $500 cash bonus if you take delivery on one between now and March 31st.
This is the taste that has won over 200 medals for excellence in wine tasting competitions all over the world. This is Inglenook. This is the taste that is served by more travel holiday award-winning restaurants than any of the other top 5 California wines. This is Inglenook. This is the taste that brought a record price for a California wine in auction, over $1,000 a bottle. Discover award-winning taste. Discover Inglenook.
The Midwest, experiencing a brutal winter to the bitter end, is being battered by yet another wave of disastrous weather. Tornadoes have cut a 200-mile swath through parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. To the north, residents of Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan have been hit by floods from rivers still rising. The wind and rainstorms have left 11 persons dead, 120 injured, and hundreds homeless. After speaking to the Oklahoma legislature, President Reagan delayed his scheduled return to Washington to inspect some of the stricken areas. Meredith Vieira has details.
Reagan got a bird's-eye view of some of the damage caused by tornadoes in Oklahoma. But as Air Force One approached Fort Wayne, the view changed to that of a city devastated by flooding. Once the plane landed, Mr. Reagan said he has not yet decided what to do about federal aid for Fort Wayne, and then he was off for a quick visit to some of the flooded areas of town.
Good evening. At the tone, the time will be 6:30.
Now the flooding in Fort Wayne appears to be unstoppable. The 3 rivers that converge here are still rising, the St. Joseph, the St. Mary's, and the Maumee. The underwater drainage system can barely hold any more runoff. The water is popping manhole covers off the sewers and pouring out onto the streets, as much as 5 feet of it in this section of town alone. Volunteers continued sandbagging the area this morning, but the only place to put the water is back into the river. Another half-inch of rain today means even more runoff will hit within 48 hours. The Maumee is expected to crest at 26.5 feet, 11 feet above flood level. Officials say the only thing left to do may be even more evacuations.
Well, we have 2,000 people approximately homeless. If the 26.5 crest becomes a reality, which is a possibility, we could have 20,000 people homeless. We could have 10 times the land area we presently have flooded.
Like Fort Wayne, much of the Midwest is suffering from severe weather. There are flash flood warnings throughout southern Michigan. Already as many as 2,000 people have been evacuated from their homes in Monroe County. The Illinois River is rising near Peoria and could present a real threat. In Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma, the problem is tornadoes. Last night in Ada, Oklahoma, a tornado ripped through a trailer park. 1 person was killed. 2 other people died in Mulberry, Kansas. A tornado carved a path right through the middle of their town. For those towns, the worst is over. But in Fort Wayne, it is yet to come, and all the sandbags in the city probably won't stop it. Meredith Vieira, CBS News, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
The Federal Reserve Board today said that after 6 straight monthly declines, output of the nation's factories and mines jumped 1.6% last month. But don't bury the recession just yet. Analysts said that February's industrial production figures may look so good chiefly because wicked weather made January's report look so bad. The construction picture has improved somewhat. The Commerce Department reported today that housing starts last month were 6.5% higher than in January. Permits for future building rose 0.7%.
It's the oldest question in the world.
What'll I have for dinner?
Well, Stouffer's has more than 40 different answers. 9 chicken dishes, 13 beef, 8 Italian dishes. We've got crepes, Chinese dishes, Japanese, Swedish, and of course, American. So if you're looking for answers, you ought to be looking at Stouffer's.
I know what I'm having for dinner. Stouffer's.
Set yourself free. Set yourself free with Stouffer's.
You won't find them in a Sealy. You won't find them in a Serta. You won't find them in a Stearns & Foster. But you will find them in a Beauty Rest by Simmons. Hundreds of these exclusive Beauty Rest coils. They're wrapped individually so they're free to move separately to give every part of your body the kind of firm, comfortable support you won't find anywhere but here. Right now, there's a special purchase offer on the limited edition Beauty Rest, but only while supply lasts.
In its 6th day of deliberations, the jury in Newport, Rhode Island today reached a verdict in the trial of Klaus von Bülow. He was accused of twice trying to murder his wealthy wife with insulin injections that plunged her into an irreversible coma. Liz Trotta was in the courtroom.
It was 11:15 precisely, and the tense silence was broken only by the footsteps of the jurors.
You may proceed.
Please rise. Has the jury agreed upon a verdict?
It has, sir.
Indictment 81-118, State of Rhode Island versus Klaus von Bülow, charging the defendant with count 1, assault with intent to commit murder. Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
The jury finds the defendant, Klaus von Bülow, guilty.
And count 2, assault with intent to commit murder. Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Klaus von Bülow, guilty.
Von Bülow didn't flinch, but the grim faces of the defense lawyers and the embraces among the prosecution team told the whole story. Within moments, von Bülow's attorney, Harold Price Farringer, appeared in the press center to make a statement.
I have never for a moment lost confidence and have never doubted Mr. von Bülow's innocence, so this has been a terribly painful experience for us.
Prosecutor Stephen Famiglietti was mobbed as he left the courthouse.
I'm delighted. I'm elated. I'm about 7 feet off the ground right now.
As for the jurors, the first to speak was the jury foreman, Mrs. Barbara Connett, a teacher's wife with 2 children.
We had a very difficult decision to make, and we tried very, very hard to make the right decision. We hope we did. We think we did.
David Tafts, a computer programmer, described how difficult it was to reach a decision.
Saying that it was a painful experience. Other jurors have said that they would be very reluctant to repeat it, and I feel the same way.
Outside the courthouse, the crowds waved at von Bülow at the window. When von Bülow left the courthouse on his way back to New York, he showed his only expression of the day, a smile. Martha von Bülow's family, meanwhile, was reported to have received the news of his conviction with quiet satisfaction. The judge ruled that von Bülow was still free on bail, despite a strong appeal from the prosecutor, who implied that von Bülow, a Danish citizen, could flee the country. A hearing on a motion for appeal of his conviction has been set for April 2nd. Liz Trotta, CBS News, Newport, Rhode Island.
Von Bülow faces a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison. Nicaragua's government has declared a state of emergency throughout the country because of what it claims are, quote, plans for aggression by the United States. Charles Gomez is in Managua.
In declaring a virtual state of siege, Junta member Daniel Ortega activated for the first time the national law of emergency. The country is now on full military alert, and some basic constitutional rights have been suspended for 30 days. Ortega said the drastic action is necessary to meet the threat of growing U.S. aggression. Today, another junta member, Sergio Ramirez Mercado, was anxious to blame the Reagan administration.
The tensions and problems we have are coming directly from the attitude of the government of the United States toward our revolution.
The state of emergency mobilizes the country's 50,000-member civilian militia force. At training sessions throughout the capital, Nicaraguans are urged to prepare for war. Despite the emergency law, the Sandinista army is keeping a low profile, and life in the capital goes on as usual. But private businessmen in closed-door sessions express fear that the suspension of the right to assemble might extend to regular business meetings. And for the independent newspaper La Prensa, the emergency law is viewed as an excuse for outright censorship. The pages of the afternoon editions were rushed to the government, which now has the power to delete all material considered harmful to the revolution. Said one editor, the new law means all editorial opinion has been silenced, and we have been reduced to publishing government propaganda and the police blotter. Charles Gomez, CBS News, Managua.
Costa Rica has managed to remain aloof from any official involvement in El Salvador's civil war, but a large weapons seizure in Costa Rica last night threatens to undermine that public position. Steve Croft reports from San Jose.
There were enough weapons and supplies to equip a full company of Salvadoran guerrillas, 100 men. M16s, ammunition, communication gear, phony passports, and boxes of guerrilla uniforms. The arsenal was seized by the Costa Rican equivalent of the FBI while searching for the kidnappers of a wealthy Iranian student. They discovered instead what they called a logistical support group of the FMLN, the rebels operating in El Salvador. Authorities arrested one Argentine, one Chilean, two Nicaraguans, three Salvadorans, and one Costa Rican. These vehicles, equipped with secret compartments for concealing weapons, were to be used to transport the arms and supplies to El Salvador by way of Nicaragua. One of the driver's passports indicated the trip had been made 12 times. U.S. officials here say it could not be done without the complicity of Nicaraguan border guards. U.S. Ambassador Frank McNeil called it $1 million arms seizure.
Well, the money can't be coming from campesinos. They don't have that kind of money. And I doubt if it's coming from church groups anyplace, so I think it has to be coming from outside.
Ambassador McNeil said several of the captured guerrillas had been seen hanging around the U.S. Embassy here in recent weeks. And he noted that it was just 1 year ago tomorrow that terrorists here blew up a U.S. vehicle, injuring 3 Marines. Steve Croft, CBS News, San Jose, Costa Rica.
Did you get the right air cleaner, Harry?
Got the ecologizer.
It costs more, Harry.
It does more, Millie. It takes tobacco smoke, dust, odors, and pollen.
That's what the cheaper one said too, Harry.
Cheaper ones don't have CA90. That's the difference. It does a better job removing formaldehyde.
Do we have formaldehyde?
Almost any home could have formaldehyde and other household gases.
Ecologizer. You got the right air cleaner, Harry.
You did get the right air cleaner, Harry. And right now, get a bonus filter with the ecologizer.
Formaldehyde?
We asked Roger Staubach to find out how people spell relief.
How do you spell relief?
For acid indigestion, R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
For heartburn, R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
Rolaids really does spell relief.
Like a sponge, Rolaids antacid medicine consumes 100% of the acid required to give millions 100% relief.
How do you spell relief?
I spell relief R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
For millions of Americans, Rolaids spells 100% relief.
A compromise has averted a contempt of Congress vote against Interior Secretary Watt. The Reagan administration agreed to give a House Energy Subcommittee subpoenaed documents, but with restrictions. The documents may be seen only by members of the subcommittee, not its staff, and may not be reproduced. The Reagan administration had claimed executive privilege in withholding the material. Just about every generation, Americans revise their immigration laws. Historians argue that how those laws are revised says something about that generation. In the 1920s, for example, that period which has been called the era of wonderful nonsense, the National Origins Act sharply restricted the flow of Southern and Eastern Europeans. Tomorrow, as Bernard Goldberg reports, immigration legislation reflecting this generation's concerns will be introduced in Congress.
America takes in twice the number of immigrants as all the other nations in the world combined. But many of the immigrants are finding the welcome is wearing thin.
They're willing to work for a lower payment than we get. Like the people could be paying us $6, they're willing to take $3.
More than 5 million immigrants came here in the last decade. That's more than in any 10-year period since the turn of the century. Some say that's too many.
This country just can't continue to support all the immigrants that flock to this country. However, what, where do you draw the line?
Many of them try to sneak in, to work. For every illegal alien caught, 2 or 3 make it. An estimated 6 million already have.
The name of the statue in the harbor is Liberty Enlightening the World. It is not send us everyone you have, legally or illegally.
Senator Simpson says America, the nation of immigrants, is suffering from a new disease, compassion fatigue. Americans, he says, are tired of accepting the world's tired and poor. And that's why Simpson wants Congress to rewrite the nation's immigration laws, the first complete overhaul in 30 years. The current law allows 270,000 immigrants into the U.S. each year, but the law also allows citizens to bring in an unlimited number of immediate relatives. The new law would limit the number of immigrants to a flat 425,000 a year. Political refugees would be counted separately, as they are now. And to control the flow of illegals, the legislation would set fines and jail sentences for employers who hire illegal aliens. And it would give amnesty to illegal aliens who came to the United States before January 1980.
I just think that after 30 years and a system out of control and that it's time to do something. And anybody who believes that if we do nothing with the present system, that something good is going to happen in this country is goofy as hell.
For them, the present system has already broken down. These are some of the faces and voices of America's immigration crisis. The Haitians. Over 2,000 are being held in detention camps around the country while the government decides what to do with them. The look is Caribbean, the graffiti political, the mood cynical. The city, Miami. The neighborhood, Little Haiti, where the feeling is that the reason so many Americans are so concerned with immigration reform now is because of them.
This is the first time in U.S. history you're dealing with a group of black boat people coming to our shores. The Statues of Liberty always has been saying, welcome white, welcome poor whites, welcome oppressed white. They didn't say welcome poor black or welcome black in general, welcome Africans.
If we turn our back on the Haitians, the Salvadorians, and the Cubans in this present situation, no matter how many refugees we take from Poland and the other parts of the world, we will be less American.
Officially, the welcome mat is still out for legal immigrants. They just arrived from the Soviet Union. But one poll shows that 80% of Americans want to cut back, even on legal immigrants. Roger Connor heads a group called FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform.
The idea that America can accept unlimited immigration is an idea whose time has come and passed. History is replete with ideas which, though appropriate to one age, lead to disaster in the next.
Ultimately, it comes down to a matter of numbers. And they are the numbers. Bernard Goldberg, CBS News, Miami.
This is your chance, America, to show the world's great road cars just how good an American car can be. Its name, Pontiac 6000. An exciting new front-wheel drive car that does its talking where it counts, on the road. It's loaded for bear with a fuel-injected 4-cylinder engine, McPherson front struts, power rack and pinion steering, and available V6 or diesel. Take retail delivery between now and March 31 and get a $500 cash bonus on any new Pontiac 6000.
Your business machines say a lot about the way you do business. Quick. Right. Canon's NP400F delivers 40 letter-sized copies in a minute. Consider it done. Responds with reduction, even enlargement. Keeps you organized with a document feeder and optional sorter. Attaboy. The Canon NP400F system copier. Technology that keeps you going. Call toll-free for information or contact your authorized Canon dealer.
The Nestle company announced today it will voluntarily abide by World Health Organization standards for promoting baby formula sales in third world markets. The United States cast the lone dissenting vote when the health organization adopted the advertising code last May. The code bars mass media advertising and the distribution of free samples. Some critics maintain the misuse of baby formulas by gullible third world consumers has led to widespread baby deaths. In July, a coalition of church and labor groups began a boycott of Nestle products. The United States has the highest level of handgun murders in the world. Some people argue that the way to reduce the killing is to restrict or ban the sale of handguns. But as John Jahan reports, that argument backfired in one southern town.
If you're thinking of moving to the quiet city of Kennesaw, Georgia, don't forget your gun. Incensed that the town of Morton Grove, Illinois, banned guns completely, the Georgia town responded with a law requiring residents to keep a gun and ammunition in their homes.
The message should be very clear to the criminal element. Stay out of Kennesaw, Georgia.
And if people in Morton Grove do turn in their weapons?
They should send them to the city of Kennesaw, because we have people here that can't afford guns, and we'd be more than happy to issue them to them.
Exempt from the law are disabled people who can't hold a gun, convicted criminals, or people who object to guns on religious grounds.
We just hope that everybody has a gun. We want them to be aware that they need to have a gun.
The city council vote was unanimous. We asked City Councilman Ivan Malone what happens to people who don't want a gun.
They come before the city council and ask to be exempted and give us their reason.
If it deters one crime, I think it's great.
Are you worried about your neighbors now being required to have guns?
Yes. I think it's scary.
State Representative David Scott, a gun control advocate, expressed shock.
Right, it has a Dodge City mentality. It didn't work back then. Just brought a lot of people into Boot Hill.
Police practice at a target range in the next town, but a similar range is to be set up in Kennesaw to train citizens who comply with the new law. The Wyatt Earp quick draw, presumably, will be optional at no extra charge. John Shayan, CBS News, Kennesaw, Georgia.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Tuesday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
These are sheet fabric softeners. You put them in your dryer once and they do one load. This is Free and Soft, the revolutionary fabric softener. You put it in once and it does a month's worth of soft, static-free clothes. You attach Free and Soft to your dryer like this. Then every time you use your dryer, clothes come out soft and static-free. No sheet softener stops static better. The choice is yours. Once a load softeners or Free and Soft, the once-a-month fabric softener.
In Colombia, South America, it is a tradition to celebrate the Day of the Farmer. To celebrate for men like Juan Valdez, who for centuries have gone to the fields to pick by hand only the coffee beans that are ready, because it is their dedication to the heritage of Colombian coffee that makes it the richest coffee in the world. And that is worth celebrating.
It's a whole new morning. All the news and fascinating features you need to start your day. Wake up to the new CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.